So one of the first moves that happened this offseason was the New England Patriots signing Nelson Agholor. And, you know, at the time it made a lot of sense, I thought, because he is a, solid wide receiver. And 2-year, $22 million, that's not a huge contract. It really isn't. Although, as we have seen some more wide receiver contracts come out, it's starting to look a little bit worse potentially, because guys like Will Fuller and Juju Smith-Schuster made less money, and I think plenty think that those are better players. You also have guys like Corey Davis and Curtis Samuel making around the same amount of money that Agholor is going to be making for 1 year. And, so the New England Patriots paid him. It's kind of like, well, could you not have gotten Corey Davis or Curtis Samuel? And maybe they couldn't have, but I think it's a very interesting thing. So I really just want to make a video talking about really how good is Nelson Agholor of a player, and is this an overpay, or is this proper pay, or is this still an underpay? So we're going to use some film from last season, and we'll start off with this one. It's going to be a cover 3 zone that Agholor is going to be going up against. It's actually a cover 3 zone blitz, and you see Agholor's route. It's just kind of a deep route, and there's something really interesting about this play. So watch, Agholor, starts his route, and you notice how he kind of gets past the defensive player who's covering him right here. The safety kind of goes a little bit further in, which he probably shouldn't have, so you have a mistake on Tampa Bay, and this opens the door for Agholor and opens the door for the Raiders. But one of the things that just jumps out at you when you watch the tape of Agholor is, I swear, the guy must have the longest arms out of any 6-foot-tall wide receiver I've ever seen. I was surprised he's only listed at 6 feet tall, because he looks like he's 6'3" out there. He plays like he's 6'3" out there, which is obviously very good. He's really good at these types of plays. Watch him sort of leap his arms up like that. Again, he plays bigger than he's listed at. That's absolutely true. He can go up and make a grab. Obviously, people love to talk about his inability to make catches, and we'll get into that in just a second. But it is nice to know that he is someone who can go up and make a grab like that. So if Cam Newton misses the throw, which, let's be honest, he will do from time to time, and this is assuming he's the starter, because they still could draft someone, but if he is the starter, it's nice to have a guy who can sort of help him out in certain areas. Not necessarily just with a missed throw, but also just giving Newton a bigger window to throw to with a guy that can go up and make a grab like that. Okay, let's just get into it. Let's talk about what we have to talk about with Agholor. It's a real thing. It very much is a real thing, his drops. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, he mostly dropped in Philly. He didn't really drop the ball too often with the Raiders. That's just not true. He dropped plenty with the Raiders too. Is it kind of a bit of an overblown storyline? A bit. I mean, it's not like he's dropping everything that comes his way, but like on this play, I've circled him. I'm not going to bother with breaking down the whole play. I'm just trying to show one example of he will make some drops, quite frankly. He will just drop ones that he should never drop. Watch, Carr takes the snap. There's a blitz that isn't picked up, so he has to throw it kind of wild, but it's right in Agholor's hands, and he just drops it. And that's just one you can never drop. Never. One time is one too many. And, this is a 2nd down and around 8 situation. So now it's 3rd down and 8 instead of like a 3rd down and 4. That's a huge difference. So it's a real thing. It's not something that is an overblown storyline. Granted, if you do a good enough job of getting open, you'll take the couple of drops because you're still helping the team, and that is the case of Agholor, but that doesn't mean it's not a real thing. And now I gotta show this play, because those two first plays sort of factor into this third play. I think both of them kind of go together in a little ways, where what's gonna happen is this is gonna be man coverage, and Agholor's running about over the middle. It can get open against this coverage, so this is all good. And watch, so Carr takes the snap, and you're going to notice that Agholor is kind of open here, right? It's not wide open, but maybe open, and, Carr could just try to throw a bullet pass right here, but given the two Tampa Bay defenders that are kind of in between Carr and Agholor right here, he's instead going to kind of throw a bit of a jump ball, and again, like we talked about, sort of throw it up. Agholor has those big arms. He can make the grab. That's what Carr does, and Agholor does not make that tough catch. Again, that one's not necessarily just a straight-up drop, and that's certainly one that you can say is understandable, but it's just one of those plays that makes you think, man, it would be really nice if he was good at making those types of grabs, because he is a really good receiver at everything else. If he could just make that type of grab, that would just be fantastic. Unfortunately, that's just not in the cards for him. And, maybe he'll fix that in New England, but you can't bet on that. The chances are he won't, but the chances are that he'll still do the things that he's good at he'll still be good at those when he's in New England. Okay, no more negatives, only positives from here on out. One of the things that's great about Agholor is his route running. His route running it's really fun to watch. He's a great route runner, and he's one of those guys where he runs a 4.4, which is, good. It's not the fastest you'll see. I mean, it's kind of like, I feel like almost like average for a wide receiver, but what's really good about it is the fact that just he can run the routes and he's very precise, and he's one of the slower deep threats you'll ever see, right? How often do we see him get deep down the field? Usually those are the 4.3 guys that can do that, not Agholor. He's someone who can get down the field, and he does it often with route running instead of just blowing by people. Like on this play, Jamel Dean is one of the fastest corners in the league, but watch how Agholor is going to get by him. So first, Agholor is going to sort of run up as though he's going towards the middle of the field, and this is to get Dean to sort of turn his hips towards the middle of the field in that area. So success right here. Good job by Agholor. Against cover 3, this is kind of what corners are sort of taught to do, is you turn your back towards the sideline because it's difficult to make that throw. And so sometimes what you'll do if you're a receiver is get them to turn their hips and then run, towards the sideline, basically get closer to the bottom of the screen than you are, and it'll just be more difficult for Dean because he has to turn his hips once again, which will slow him down. However, if he just did that, I'd still probably talk about it and give him credit, but it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Watch what he's going to do instead. He steps over and then goes back, sort of that triple move almost, to get wide open and gets a huge gain. So again, he's a deep threat. He can absolutely get open past the defense, which is something that I feel like New England, that's honestly something I talked about in my Cam Newton video I made back when they signed him for another year, is that this is one of the biggest issues for New England, is that deep threat receiver. And I think that that's why they really wanted Agholor and why they were willing to say, you know what, if we have to give you a couple million more, so be it. It's going to help our team way more than if we were to get a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster, who maybe in a vacuum is a better player, but can't necessarily do the things that Agholor can do in terms of the deep game. Now, maybe like a Will Fuller would have been better because he's an even better deep threat, but at the same time, I think there are things Agholor can do that Fuller can't, and we just don't know all the details. Maybe Fuller didn't want to go to New England. Maybe New England was worried about his injury history. There's so much left on the table. In terms of this signing, that's a huge benefit. And I want to show this play too, because again, I'm trying to be clear. He might not be as fast as Tyreek Hill or like prime Deshaun Jackson or one of those guys, but he absolutely can still run by a defensive back. And, he can be a deep threat in that way as well. Like on this play, that's what's happening. It's a cover 1 play with a deep route. And these are the things that New England, they just need receivers who can win this matchup, which they just didn't have last year. And it was a real issue. Watch, you see Carr take the snap, and really Agholor just runs by him. This is just speed, and that's how he's able to, it's against press coverage. He just goes deep and gets open, and that's what he can hopefully do with New England. I'm not going to sit here and say he can do that as consistently as some other guys in the league, but again, in terms of deep threat receivers who were in the league that can also run other routes and aren't just a one-trick pony that you could get for cheap, those don't really exist. They just don't. I think my final verdict on this is it a couple million overpriced? Yeah, probably. But you know what? Sometimes you have to give up stuff to get a player. No matter how you're getting a player, you're going to have to give something up. If you draft a player, well, you're spending a draft pick. If you trade for someone, you have to trade a draft pick or trade another player. And if you sign someone in free agency, usually you have to overpay a little bit, so you're giving up cap space. So either way, you have to give something up. And I'd probably rather them, given how much cap space they had, spend a couple extra million on Agholor and then, save the draft picks. I think that makes more sense just given what they have. But yeah, that's what I think. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this signing? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.